Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering woke teachers panic as normal teachers quit and start anti-woke schools. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from the Washington Post, they quit liberal public schools. Now they teach kids to be anti-woke. And also from the Washington Post, Florida bans teaching about gender identity in all public schools. And from the Epoch Times, Florida bans indoctrination in teacher training programs. Newly signed bill by the state's Republican governor prohibits instruction in diversity, equity, and inclusion and identity politics. And identity politics and propaganda in teaching is why these two teachers left California, went to Florida, and started a Christian online school that teaches kids to be critical thinkers, to be anti-woke. Callie Fontanillas repeated the lesson title to herself one last time, A Complete History of Slavery in America, sipped her peppermint tea, and hit record. Quote, "Hello, Exodus students," she said, addressing the group of 95th through 12th graders who would eventually watch the video as part of their lessons from the Exodus Institute, an online Christian K-12 school Callie and her husband founded in 2021 with the motto, Exit Public Education. The video was the latest in a special enrichment program dubbed the Young Patriots Academy, which aims to debunk the woke lies taught in most public schools per the Exodus website. Callie, who is half black and half white, had a particular target that Friday, what she calls the left's unquestioning advocacy of reparations, the theory that the government should pay restitution to descendants of enslaved Americans. She told her virtual class they were about to learn of the Quakers and how white members of that religion helped fight slavery. She said that throughout American history, there were good people and bad people, but focusing only on the bad, like she believes many public school teachers do, would be wrong. Quote, "Whenever you learn history," she said, "it's important to learn the full context of it." Callie's online job marked a deep departure from the years she and her husband, John Fontanillas, spent teaching middle and high school English in California's Deep Blue Salinas district. The couple quit their jobs a year after the coronavirus pandemic began, disillusioned by school shutdowns and displeased by some colleagues' embrace of the Black Lives Matter movement, which both thought was wrong-headed and hateful for what they saw as its anti-police stance. Callie and her husband, teacher Joshua, had grown convinced their school was teaching harmful ideas about race and history, including what they believe is the false theory America is systemically racist. Across the nation, mostly conservative mothers and fathers were raising similar alarms, anxiety that soon fueled an explosion of legislation restricting how educators can teach about race, sex, and gender. Because, of course, many teachers have started to push ideological propaganda into what should be neutral teaching lessons. By April 2024, such laws had spread to affect half the nation's students. The claim that public schools teach left-wing indoctrination, not education, had become commonplace on the right, repeated by parents, politicians, and pundits, but not usually by teachers, and that's why the Fontanillas felt compelled to act. They came direct from the classroom. They'd seen firsthand what was happening. Now they wanted to expose the propaganda they felt had infiltrated public schools and offer families an alternative. In 2021, eager to fulfill their mission, the couple moved to Florida to found their own Christian school in a state which, under Governor Ron DeSantis, had become a haven for people with normal views. In the years since, they've grown their school to nearly 200 students, partly through Callie's appearances on conservative media like Fox News, but mostly through her social media. Now, a half an hour into her lesson on slavery, Callie told students how some Quakers risked prison time to assist people fleeing enslavement. Quote, "There are certain people that are saying, oh, white people owe black people for slavery," Callie said. But what about the white people who were descendants of the Quakers, who actually had a lot of negative consequences that happened to them for helping to free the slaves? Or maybe the descendants of the white people who fought during the Civil War to give black people their freedom from slavery? There were certainly more than a few of those. She urged her students to keep pondering the question as they turned to the next assignment. Callie was a few years into studying for her master's degree in education at the University of California at Santa Cruz when she recalled a professor told her class to take a privilege walk. He formed the students into a line, Callie said, and asked a series of questions. Have you ever seen a play? What about a concert? Students stepped forward if the answer was yes, backward if the answer was no. Callie hated it. Although she came from a challenging background, Her Jamaican father left her white mother early on, she said. She wound up standing ahead of wealthier white classmates because her grandmother had insisted she be exposed to the arts. Years later, teaching English in Salinas, she was horrified when she saw other teachers giving students a privilege quiz during a 9th grade ethnic studies class. Gavin Newsom signed a law making ethnic studies a statewide requirement about a year earlier. Curious and worried, Callie looked up the ethnic studies lesson plans in the school's internal systems and found evidence some colleagues were using the class to introduce students to critical race theory, a college-level academic framework that holds racism as baked into American institutions. Remember, they told us for a couple of years while we were trying to stop critical race theory being installed everywhere, that critical race theory supposedly was just some obscure legal theory that was only taught and discussed in law schools and only in a limited way? Well, of course they were lying because that's what they do. Callie had encountered the theory in graduate school and loathed it, fearing it would convert students into victims who lay blame on racist systems rather than accept any individual responsibility. In the ethnic studies class, teachers were urging students to study school policies through a critical race theory framework, according to screenshots of a presentation that Callie shared with the Washington Post, meaning they should analyze how, quote, race affects our experiences. Students were told to take 3 steps against hegemony. Per the PowerPoint, analyze hidden curriculum, use critical race theory, be active participants. The district surveyed students who completed the class in 2022, officials wrote, and their feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Joshua Fontanilla said he was also spotting what he perceived as bias at school. His suspicions stirred, he said, when he noticed his high school always announced meetings of the Gay Straight Alliance Club over the loudspeakers, but not that of other clubs like his chess group. Joshua then began combing through the American Dream unit of the English curriculum, researching the politics of every author. He concluded that too many, at least 12 of 19, were left-leaning, including, as Joshua saw it, leftist historian Studs Terkel, socialist poet Langston Hughes, and Dem Walt Whitman. Both were raised in a blue slice of California by what they described as liberal families and for a long time accepted those views without question. Both Callie and Joshua were disgusted with liberal politicians' response to the pandemic, especially their willingness to shut down schools, which Callie and Josh believe should have been last to close. The couple's concern over curricula, most notably the ethnic studies class, was the final straw. In the summer of 2021, her mind was made up. Callie wrote a letter to the school board. Quote, if the district continues to move forward with all these divisive teachings, it will only harden the hearts of many of our students, she wrote in the letter, which the superintendent read aloud at a June board meeting after she submitted it for public comment. Quote, I have decided to resign from the district, which is the only reason I feel brave enough to speak out without fear of repercussions. At the board meeting following the letter reading, several students gave speeches in favor of the ethnic studies course that helped prompt Callie's resignation. Quote, I would like to be able to learn my people's history at school, said one student, noting she is of Mexican and Latina heritage. Quote, I feel like ethnic studies unites us more because we have a new understanding, another student told the local reporter. It makes us understand why certain stereotypes are in our communities and how to fix them. You know, we can always distinguish ourselves from our stereotypes and do the unexpected, just work hard, get a great reputation, be honest. We can always do that. We don't have to create new stereotypes, and that's what this diversity stuff is all about. But Callie wasn't there to hear them. Before that summer ended, she and Joshua packed their bags and moved to Florida. Back in her guest bedroom, which doubles as her office, Callie prepared to finish out her lesson on slavery, reparations, and the Quakers. She told her students how Quakers formed some of the first anti-slavery organizations in American history, how Quakers boycotted sugar, cotton, and other goods produced through slave labor. She spoke about how Quakers lacked official clergy and advocated spiritual equality for men and women. She did not mention that 19th century slaveholding Quakers sometimes offered financial compensation to the enslaved people they freed. British Quakers committed to make reparations for their past involvement in the transatlantic slave trade and colonialism. Asked about this, Callie said in an interview that she knows not all Quakers were perfect and that some owned slaves, but that her lesson was meant to give a contrast and balance to the overemphasis on reparations coming from the left. She also noted that some Quakers have become very left-leaning now. The most important thing to know about the Quakers, Callie told her class that Friday, is that they lived out their values. They put their values into practice. Everything the Quakers did, from what they ate to where they shopped to how they prayed, upheld their values. Quote, and what does that mean to actually live your values, she asked. Callie smiled as she told her students to write down their answers. She knew her own. And Florida is trying to stop the next generation of teachers from being trained to indoctrinate. From the Epoch Times, Florida bans indoctrination in teacher training programs. Newly signed bill by the state's Republican governor prohibits instruction in diversity, equity, and inclusion and identity politics. Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a bill into law banning indoctrination programs for teachers. Accredited post-secondary institutions can seek Florida Department of Education approval to create institutes to educate teachers on improving classroom instruction and meeting requirements for certification or recertification. They can also seek approval for instruction on educating existing and potential substitute teachers on how to perform classroom duties and to teach those with baccalaureate degrees how to become certified. However, teacher preparation, training, and certification programs will not be allowed to teach identity politics or to make claims that systemic racism, sexism, oppression, or white privilege are inherent in America's culture. Teachers won't be forced to learn about that to get certified to teach and then be encouraged to pass that along to students. In addition, Governor Ron DeSantis' office said in a statement that he's working with Attorney General Ashley Moody to safeguard Florida's workforce from being subjected to ideological discrimination and harassment. The governor said he does not believe that companies have the right to force their employees to attend training courses designed to convince them that they are inherently racist or sexist, or to diminish their sense of self-worth because of their religious or social upbringing. At a press briefing and signing ceremony, DeSantis said he did not want teacher preparation programs to become captive to someone's ideological agenda. Quote, this bill prohibits the indoctrination in teacher preparation, he summarized. So there's not going to be diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's not going to be any of the bogus history. It's just going to be standard teacher preparation without having an ideological agenda. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.